There is a truth about success you may spend much of your life avoiding, not because it is hidden from you, but because it is costly to accept. It asks too much. It strips away too many excuses. It leaves too little room for self-pity, delay, and the comforting fiction that the life you desire is being denied to you only by forces outside yourself. You can endure struggle. You can endure disappointment. But whether you can endure the full weight of this realization is another matter entirely. The chief obstacle is not always the world around you. Often it is the mind within you. That is the truth no one tells you. You have been taught to look outward, outward to opportunity, outward to timing, outward to conditions, resources, connections, markets, systems, and luck. You have been taught to work harder, learn more, plan better, wait longer, and trust that in time your effort will be rewarded. There is value in these things, but they are not the foundation. They are only the tools. A sharp tool in the hand of a divided mind will still build a divided life. A clever strategy in the hand of weak self-command will not save you from yourself. A great opportunity placed before an undisciplined nature often becomes nothing more than another wasted chance. You must understand this clearly. Success is not first won in public. It is not first won in business, in reputation, in applause, or in the eyes of the world. It is first won in private. It is won in the unseen chambers of thought. It is won when you are forced to choose between comfort and command, between excuse and effort, between delay and decision. Long before the world sees the result has already been shaped by the habits of your mind. There, in silence, your character is either governing your life or surrendering it piece by piece. This is where you lose if you are not watchful. You do not usually lose in one grand collapse. You do not lose through one dramatic failure. You lose through concessions so small they appear harmless. A lowered standard here, a delayed action there, a promise broken in secret, a little more indulgence, a little less urgency, a little more emotional negotiation. Because no audience is present, because no disgrace follows at once, you do not call it defeat. You call it stress. You call it fatigue. You call it needing time. You call it being realistic. Yet all the while, something costly is taking place. Your will is weakening. Your inner authority is eroding. Your mind is learning what it may get away with. Read that again. Your mind is always learning what it may get away with. That is why you may surround yourself with information and still remain weak in spirit. That is why you may be full of ideas and still remain powerless. That is why you may speak intelligently about success while living in quiet defeat. Your problem is not always a lack of knowledge. Your problem is often a lack of inner rule. You have not yet fully discovered that life yields most generously to the person who has first learned how to govern himself. There are 5 great errors of the mind that can lead you away from success even while you claim to desire it. These errors are not isolated. They build upon one another. One prepares the ground for the next. One weakens your inner life so that another may take deeper root. But if you understand these laws, truly understand them, you can begin to reverse them. You can stop drifting and start directing. You can stop waiting and start commanding. You can stop living at the mercy of impulse and begin living by deliberate design. The first error is the worship of motivation. This error has ruined more ambition than open failure ever could. You have likely been trained to wait until you feel ready. You want confidence before action, inspiration before labor, certainty before commitment. You believe you must feel strong before you move. And so, without realizing it, you become a servant of emotion. When the mood is favorable, you proceed. When the mood fades, you retreat. When enthusiasm rises, you speak boldly of your future. When enthusiasm disappears, your future is quietly postponed. This is not power, it is dependency. Motivation is a visitor, not a ruler. It arrives unannounced and leaves without apology. It is unstable by nature. A speech can stir it, a song can awaken it, hope can kindle it, imagination can inflame it, but boredom can kill it just as quickly. Uncertainty can smother it. Fatigue can drain it. Criticism can weaken it. Monotony can erase it. If you wait for emotion to carry you, you will always remain inconsistent, because emotion itself is inconsistent. You will build on weather and then wonder why your progress keeps washing away. Here is the mistake almost everyone makes. Because motivation feels strong, they assume it must be trustworthy. But feeling strong and being trustworthy are not the same thing. A drunkard may feel powerful. A gambler may feel certain. A dreamer may feel convinced. Emotion is not evidence. It is not character. It is not law. It is merely a passing condition, and yet millions build their future upon it. You may say, I will begin when I feel clear. You may tell yourself, I will return to the work when my mind is right. You may believe, I will move once my energy returns. But energy does not create discipline. Discipline creates energy. Action does not always follow feeling. More often than most men realize, feeling follows action. You will wait far longer to feel like doing the hard thing than the man who has already decided the hard thing must be done whether he feels like it or not. That is the dividing line. An amateur asks his emotions for permission. A disciplined man gives his emotions instructions. Never forget that. Each time you promise yourself action and fail to act because you do not feel inclined, you do more than delay a task. You weaken the authority of your own word. You teach your mind that your decisions are flexible, that your commitments are negotiable, that your future may be postponed by the slightest discomfort. Over time, this becomes identity. You become a man who means well but does not move well. You become a man who admires discipline while repeatedly escaping it. And then you wonder why confidence seems to leave you. Confidence does not leave you by accident. It leaves when your mind stops believing your promises. Confidence is not born from encouragement alone. Confidence is earned from evidence. It is the byproduct of self-trust. And self-trust is built when you see yourself obey your own command under unfavorable conditions. When you work without applause. When you continue without novelty. When you keep your word in private. There is no substitute for this. No affirmation can replace it. No pep talk can manufacture it. Your mind believes what your behavior proves. This is why discipline is among the highest forms of self-respect. It says, my feelings may speak, but they do not govern. It says, the task remains the task, whether I am excited by it or not. It says, I do not require emotional applause in order to obey what I know must be done. Once you reach that point, you stop living in cycles of inspiration and collapse. You begin living by principle, and principle outlasts mood every time. Now the danger becomes harder to detect. Even when you begin developing discipline, you may still remain trapped if your environment is quietly working against you. This is the second era, the social anchor. You do not become strong in complete isolation from influence. You absorb more than you realize. You absorb standards, tones, excuses, expectations, and definitions of what is normal. You may believe your ambitions are entirely your own, yet much of what you dare, tolerate, excuse, or suppress has already been shaped by the atmosphere around you. The people you speak with, the habits you witness, the conversations you repeat, the complaints you hear, the compromises you watch, all of these are teaching you something. A weak environment does not need to command you to fail. It only needs to normalize weakness until strength begins to look strange. This is how ambition dies in many lives, not by attack, by sedation. If you live among those who delay, delay begins to sound reasonable. If you live among those who mock seriousness, discipline begins to feel excessive. If you keep company with those who always explain away effort, your own urgency begins cooling without your permission. You may still speak of goals. You may still admire success. But the internal fire required to pursue them begins losing oxygen. This is more dangerous than open opposition. An enemy can make you alert. Comfort makes you drowsy. And comfort never announces itself as danger. It speaks gently. It sounds practical. It says, take it easy. Do not be so intense. Why push so hard? You are doing enough. You have changed. Spoken at the right moments, these phrases become chains wrapped in velvet. They do not crush ambition all at once. They lower it. They soften it. They make greatness feel socially expensive and mediocrity feel emotionally safe. Understand this clearly. Not everyone who loves you is equipped to strengthen you. Some people are loyal to the version of you that asks less of life. Some feel safer around your moderation than your seriousness. Your growth may disturb those who have made peace with a smaller standard, not because they are evil, but because your movement reminds them of their own stillness. Thus they may, often without malice, begin calling your discipline imbalance and your ambition excess. This is the price of growth. At some point, you must decide whether you want approval or expansion. In the early stages, you may not have both. There is often a lonely period in the life of anyone who rises. The old environment no longer fits, but the new one has not yet formed. In that season, you must learn how to endure emotional distance without abandoning your standard. You must learn how to rebuild your identity without constant reinforcement. You must stop asking the room for permission to become what the room itself does not understand. This is where inner standard becomes everything. If you must be surrounded by encouragement in order to remain committed, you are still fragile. If you can keep your seriousness in weak company, you have begun to mature. If you can choose your environment with intention instead of being shaped by it unconsciously, you have taken back another part of your life. Here is the law. Your environment is always teaching you what kind of life to expect. Guard it as carefully as you would guard a great investment. A poor circle can quietly reduce a powerful mind to average habits, while a strong environment can awaken standards you did not know were possible. Now we come to the third era, and here even disciplined men often stumble. This is the illusion of control. You may not wait for motivation. You may act. You may plan. You may prepare. You may think ahead. All of this is good. But even here another trap appears. You begin believing that if you think hard enough, plan long enough, anticipate enough outcomes, and prepare carefully enough, you can remove uncertainty from life. You want the future to become manageable through force of mind. It will not. You control your actions. You do not control all consequences. You may influence much, but you do not command timing, economy, response, interruption, accident, or chance. Yet countless people live as though they do. They carry outcomes mentally as if outcomes were theirs to possess. They lie awake trying to manage tomorrow. They exhaust themselves rehearsing scenarios. They mistake overthinking for wisdom and constant internal tension for responsibility. This does not create peace. It creates strain. The desire for control becomes destructive when you begin demanding certainty before you move. Then planning becomes an alibi for hesitation. You tell yourself you are being careful, when in truth you are trying to protect yourself from the discomfort of unpredictability. You want the road guaranteed before you commit your full strength to walking it. That road does not exist. Life does not make such bargains. This is why so many capable men remain slower than they should be. They are not lacking discipline. They are overburdened by the fantasy that they must first control every variable. They are carrying the weather on their shoulders. They are trying to manage things that do not belong to them. When reality shifts, they feel destabilized, not because they are weak in effort, but because they were too emotionally attached to the illusion that the plan would obey them exactly. The strong man does not require certainty. He requires direction. He does not worship the map. He uses the map, then revises it when reality speaks. He understands that flexibility is not weakness. Adaptation is not failure. It is intelligence under pressure. The plan is not the prize. The mission is. Fix that in your mind. If you grow too loyal to a method, you may stay chained to a dead path merely because altering course wounds your pride. You may sink years into a losing strategy because to pivot would feel like defeat. That is how the illusion of control becomes a prison. It binds you not only to anxiety, but to outdated decisions. The wise man acts firmly and adjusts swiftly. He does not surrender to chaos, but neither does he curse the world for being uncertain. He knows the only dominion fully granted to him is the dominion of response, how he acts, how he interprets, how he adapts, how he continues. Once he accepts this, much wasted energy returns to him. Anxiety lessens. Action sharpens. Focus becomes cleaner. He stops trying to command what belongs to the future and begins commanding what belongs to the present. Now we reach the fourth era, and here the deception is even more subtle. This is the poison of arrival. You may live on a silent promise. When I get there, then I will feel complete. The next income, the next title, the next accomplishment, the next recognition, these become sacred in your imagination. You treat them as if they contain emotional salvation. You tell yourself, once I achieve that, I will finally be at peace. Then the effort will make sense. Then I will feel like enough. This belief is among the most seductive lies in the world. Achievement can bring relief. It can bring options. It can bring pride. But it cannot permanently provide identity. It cannot heal a divided nature. It cannot create self-respect where self-betrayal still lives. It cannot produce meaning in a life that never learned how to find meaning in discipline, effort, and becoming. This is why some of the most outwardly successful people still feel inwardly restless. The summit did not cure the climber. It only revealed him. Success is an amplifier. It increases the volume of what is already present. If you are grounded, success may expand your usefulness. If you are hollow, success may expose the hollow places more painfully. If you lack inner order, achievement can create more fear than peace, because now there is something visible to protect, maintain, and fear losing. And here is what wounds so many. The emotional high of arrival fades quickly. What once looked like the answer becomes the new normal. then the old hunger returns. If you built your whole life on the belief that the destination would finally make you whole, you will be left with a terrifying question the moment you arrive. Is this all? That question has broken many who believe success would rescue them from themselves. The truth is harder, but cleaner. The process matters not because it sounds noble, but because it is where character is built. The process forms patience, endurance, seriousness, resilience, and self-command. These are not side effects. They are the deeper treasure. If you learn how to value becoming, you will not fall apart when the thrill of arrival fades, because you will understand that the real reward was never only the prize. It was the reconstruction of the self. So here is the law. Never ask an outcome to carry the weight of your identity. Let goals direct you. Let them stretch you. Let them call greatness out of you. But do not worship them. The summit cannot give what only character can sustain. Now we arrive at the final error, the deepest one, the one into which all the others feed, radical ownership. Life is not fair. It never has been. It never will be. Men begin from unequal positions. Luck intervenes, timing shifts, betrayal happens, illness comes, markets change. The deserving are sometimes delayed, and the careless sometimes get ahead for a season. Any philosophy that denies this is a child's philosophy. But here is the great dividing line. Though you do not control all that happens to you, you remain responsible for what you become in response to it. This is where power begins, and this is where most people retreat. Blame offers emotional relief. It allows you to explain your stagnation without confronting your own unused strength. Sometimes the blame is not entirely false. Perhaps you were wronged. Perhaps the obstacle is real. Perhaps the beginning truly was unfair. But fault and responsibility are not the same thing. You may not be at fault for the storm, yet you remain responsible for how you sail in it. You may not be at fault for betrayal, but you are responsible for whether betrayal becomes the architect of your future. You may not be at fault for your starting point, but you are responsible for what you build from there. That is why ownership is so liberating. It cuts the chain between explanation and paralysis. The moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin asking, "What is required of me now?" you reclaim authorship. You cease to be merely acted upon. You become active. Your mind stops living in courtroom language and starts living in builder's language. You may still feel pain. You may still feel anger. But now your strength has a direction. And once ownership becomes real, the other laws begin to fall into place. You stop waiting for motivation because action is no longer optional. You become selective about influence because you know environment is real. You let go of controlling outcomes because you understand your dominion begins with response. You stop expecting the next achievement to complete you because you are building substance during the process. This is the hidden law in full. Your outer life will not permanently rise above the order of your inner life. If your mind is governed by mood, your progress will remain unstable. If it is governed by weak company, your standards will remain low. If it is governed by control fantasy, your energy will leak into anxiety. If it is governed by a rival fantasy, your victories will turn thin. If it is governed by blame, your power will always be elsewhere. But if your mind becomes governed by discipline, by chosen influence, by flexibility, by respect for process, and by ownership, then your life begins to change at the root. That change does not begin with spectacle. It begins quietly. You act when you do not feel like acting. You keep promises no one would know you broke. You reduce exposure to voices that make you weaker. You stop demanding certainty before movement. You stop postponing your peace until the next win. You stop narrating your life as if your power lives somewhere outside you. Those actions may look ordinary. They are not. They are structural. They are the difference between drift and command. So now the question is no longer whether you want success. Most people say they do. The real question is whether you are willing to become the kind of man success can trust, whether you are willing to govern the mind that has been quietly governing you, whether you are willing to stop romanticizing comfort and start respecting command. Name the law that has ruled you most: motivation, environment, control, arrival, blame. Name it honestly. Then move against it today. Because the life you want is not waiting for your feelings. It is waiting for your decision.